All right, everybody. Good early afternoon or late morning for some of you guys. Depends on when you're watching this. And we have an NCAA watch schedule to go through once again. It's week 7 for college football. Things are heating up. Things are getting spicy. Things are getting fun. And we've got a bunch of games to watch for prospect purposes. And let's go ahead and go through it here. We already have some college games this week. There were some played yesterday. Are going to be some played today, but nothing super compelling. Coastal Carolina did play yesterday, and they got Grayson McCall, but McCall's already kind of lost me, honestly. He's just not playing that well, so don't even worry about that. Coming up tomorrow afternoon, we do have a game. We also have a game on Friday, and then, of course, we get to Saturday. So tomorrow, Thursday, 4 p.m., if you get Fox Sports 1, I know this is not a major channel, but this is the only game on Thursday that caught my attention positively. Fox Sports 1, West Virginia versus Houston. West Virginia has one of my favorite centers in this class in Zach Frazier, and that's it. Like, it's not great. I'm not going to lie. If you have something better to do with your time on Thursday, I'm not going to blame you. There's going to be Thursday night football. We're going to get to watch Broncos Chiefs. That could be fun, I guess. So if you want to skip this one, I don't think anybody would blame you for that. But Zach Frazier is playing for West Virginia. It's a rare opportunity to see him if you have FS1. And then we got another game on Friday, the 13th. Friday the 13th, we got Stanford against Colorado at 7 p.m. on ESPN. Now, Colorado, the shine is off the apple, but they're still fun. They're still interesting. They're still worth keeping an eye on. They could still make a bowl game. They could still do something of note this year. And at the very least, you've got that going for you. But they're playing Stanford, and Benjamin Eurosek, I didn't notice him until the season started, but I am starting to see other people elevate him to a draftable state. Like, if this keeps up, he's going to be like a fifth round pick. And I like Benjamin Eurosek, so I'm going to keep an eye on that. Now, Colorado doesn't really have anybody imminent in the upcoming draft. Of course, they have Shedeur Sanders, but he's probably a 2025 guy. I think Dion's already basically said, look, he's going to stay back another year, but keeping an eye on Shedeur Sanders would be good because next year he has a chance to push up there with the number 1 overall pick. He could be the number 1 overall pick next year, and there's no reason why you can't keep an eye on him while he's still in what will probably be his second to last year in college. So watch that game anyway. And that gets us to Saturday. And Saturday has a pretty action packed schedule in the early and middle windows. I couldn't find a lot in the late windows. I'm just going to go ahead and admit that now. But let's go ahead and fill the watch schedule day up with what we can find. Let me space that out a little bit. Okay, so 9 a.m. on ABC, we have Syracuse playing Florida State. Not the greatest game, but honestly, a lot of the early games are probably going to be blowouts. Like Georgia's playing some cupcake. There's the number 3 team. Who's the number 3 team? They're playing a cupcake. A lot of games that are probably going to be blowouts. I think Georgia's playing Vanderbilt or something like that. And a lot of the top teams that have a lot of really fun prospects are going to cakewalk. They're going to stomp a mud hole in these teams. So I singled out Syracuse versus Florida State because Syracuse isn't terrible at least. But this is probably going to be a blowout. It just won't be a monster blowout, I don't think. And Syracuse does have Oronde Gadsden the second, a tight end who, I'm waiting for him to spring back to life here. Like he's not doing anything. Like, come on, dude. We need this tight end class to be beefed up a little bit. I'm running out of patience for you, man. You need to do something. And Florida State, of course, has Jordan Travis, fun QB prospect. Jaheim Bell, another tight end who needs to do something quickly before he loses my interest. And one of the top edges in this class, Jared Verse. So this has a chance to be a half decent game, so I'm going to single it out over a game like Georgia versus Vanderbilt. And honestly, that's the best game of the early window. The second best game I could find is probably the 9 a.m. Fox game, Indiana versus Michigan. Michigan's probably going to win by 30, 35 points. But between them and Georgia, it's just kind of like, which prospects would you rather watch, right? I think the answer is Michigan because we also have to start adding Zinter to this list, right? So guard Zinter is actually somebody we need to throw on here. So you've got Indiana, not a very good team, not a terrible team though, playing Michigan with QB McCarthy, who I'm not a fan of, but he's not when I first look at him, he looks so small, it's hard for me to take him seriously as an NFL quarterback. He doesn't necessarily play like he's small. I still am not a fan, but there's something there beyond what I initially thought was there. Zinter, Jenkins, Colson, and Rod Moore. So Michigan's got a lot of guys now that we need to keep an eye on. So I'm going to say keep an eye on that. And then that turns over to the 12:30 window. CBS has Texas A&M versus Tennessee. Texas A&M is low-key becoming a very compelling team for me this year. They've got their center, Bryce Foster, who I kind of like as a day 3 guy. They've got Turner and Jackson on the defensive line. I like both those guys as maybe even day 2 guys at this rate. Excuse me. And the Tennessee Volunteers have, of course, my crush, Joe Milton, who is coming off an injury. Hopefully he plays, and hopefully he plays well. But at the same time, we actually don't want him to play too well. We don't want him getting up into like that first or second round where we can't get him. So, yeah, that's a good game. And we kind of have the game of the year so far, maybe. We got to tune into this one, even though there aren't a ton of prospects here. 12:30 p.m. ABC, Oregon versus Washington, which I'm going to watch anyway for obvious reasons. But Oregon, they've got Bo Nix, one of the top QBs, and they've got Brandon Dorlus, one of the kind of creeping into day 2 defensive linemen in this draft. And Washington has Penix, and they have their edge player, Braylon Trice, one of the top edge players in this draft. And both teams have a lot of other guys, too, who just aren't personally interesting to me, but they may end up being really highly drafted players. So that's a must watch, I think, for many reasons. And then we turn things over to the late afternoon window, 4 p.m. ESPN. Auburn takes on LSU. LSU, they've got, of course, Jaden Daniels, who's just lighting the scoreboard up every week now. And they've got 2 defensive linemen, Mason Smith and Mekhi Wingo, who I think are compelling watches. Mason Smith needs to kind of just steady his play this year. And Wingo, I continue to think might end up low-key being the best defensive lineman from LSU in this draft. And then I also found a game at 4:30 that's pretty good. In fact, in terms of pure raw prospect power, this might be the game of the week. 4:30 p.m. ABC, Miami takes on North Carolina. So Miami speaks for itself. You've got Van Dyke, didn't play well last week. You've got Javion Cohen, their guard. You've got Leonard Taylor on the defensive line, and both of their safeties, Cameron Kinchins and James Williams. It's a loaded group of Miami prospects. And North Carolina, I mean, you've got Drake May, you've got Bryson Nesbitt, you've got, of course, Cedric Gray, who I'm really starting to get into here. And it's also going to be interesting to see how Miami responds to the absolute disaster that was last week, with them losing that game they had no business losing for really, really dumb reasons. And this is the first time this year they played a great team. So how are they going to respond to that? So that's going to be a really good game. That's probably my game of the week prospect-wise. And yeah, I think that's really about it for week 7. So I couldn't find anything really good in the 7 o'clock window. So find a game that personally interests you, or do something else with your life. Maybe there will be some baseball playoffs on. I don't know. And yeah, that's what I got for the recommended watch schedule this week. Let me know what you think. I will see you guys later. Go Hawks. We are getting closer and closer to getting back on schedule with the Seahawks after the bye week.